My name is Nena Cunningham, and I am telling my quilt story at Maine Quilts 2018 in Augusta, Maine, on Friday, July 27th, 2018. This quilt originated in our guild, in our chapter of Backroad Quilters. I've seen a lot of interest lately on the internet about whether you belong to a chapter or a guild, or do you quilt on your own. And a known amount of people quilt on their own and had a lot of negative to say about quilting chapters and guilds. I probably am an extrovert, and I gain a ton of inspiration and knowledge and friendships from quilting in a group. I think there's a lot to be had from quilting in a group. We took this project on. This is a book by Sarah Maxwell and Dolores Smith. They operate out of Missouri, Mexico, Missouri actually. They have Homestead Hearth is their pattern line, and they have a quilt shop. They did this as a block of the month, 12-month block of the month. And it's all about women of influence and how 12 women influenced women's suffrage and what they did, how they contributed to actually getting women the right to vote. So it was interesting. We took each block every month, and you were to find out what your block was, who the woman was that was influential, and do some research on it. Not just use the book. You had to come to the meeting with a few little tidbits. It didn't have to be novels, but something to add to the discussion about why this quilt and these women were influential. At the end of it, some finished completely. One of our ladies in the chapter actually sold her quilt for $1,500 to a fella down in the Georgetown, Phippsburg area. One made only 9 blocks, and it fit in her world a little bit better on her bed. This is really an enormous quilt. For me, my personal part in women's suffrage is my grandmother was our town clerk for 47 years in West Gardner, Maine, and I grew up always being a part of election process, whether it's town election, state election, or your presidential election. So I counted ballots, and I was there at the voting booth, and I have always known the right to vote, never knowing that there was a difference. So for Maine, so the history of the women's suffrage really, it started in the 1700s, but nobody bought into it. And it really wasn't until it took off nationally and when they had the convention at Seneca Falls. And then a lot of women, that was 1848, a lot of women got on board. They divided that and made a new chapter that then included men. And when men got involved, it got more discussed. So it took until 1919 to actually have the 19th Amendment to the Constitution that allowed women the right to vote. Interestingly, here in Maine, Governor no, he was a senator at the time, Guy Gannett, who is our publisher for our local newspapers, introduced a bill that allowed women the right to vote for the presidential election that year. The governor at the time was Governor Milliken, and he pushed through a special session to get women the right to vote for that, and that's how Maine became the 23rd state to ratify that amendment. So in August of 1920, it became a law, a real amendment. And it wasn't until March of this is crazy to me, 1984, that the last state on our 48 states ratified that amendment. So it's amazing to me that when people look at this, they see a sample of quilt. When I look at it, I think thousands of women that worked very hard to get women the right to vote.